A pleasant evening, and we have architect Ajay Sona from Nashik.
As a kid, I was introduced to the building industry.
Called your firm as A for Architecture. Somewhere I see A for Ajay Sona as well.
So there's always this difference. So what is important to you? Is the dimension important or is the module important?
It's been a short talk, however. A pleasant evening, and we have architect Ajay Sona from Nashik, all the way coming from there to Bangalore here. And then we're going to talk about architecture as an enterprise and architect as an entrepreneur. It's an enterprise by itself. And it's been an early start in 2011 after his graduation in 2009. So was it your design prowess that it initiated to start this practice? Did you have some business acumen from your family, or it is only the design skill that actually said that, okay, you could start with a lot of confidence?
I think coming from a construction family, like my family is into construction industry from last 2 generations, started by my grandfather as a contractor, and then continued by my father. So I think as a kid, I was introduced to the building industry and somewhere to architecture much before getting into the formal architecture education. Also, my uncle happens to be an architect. So he got into architecture when I was just in standard 8th. So I think I have seen a lot of things which go into the architecture education as a kid, growing much before getting into the formal school of architecture. So by the time I was doing architecture, I had very well understood the building industry, and I was simultaneously doing some smaller assignments for my family, friends, while doing 5 years of architecture. So after that, what I wanted to learn was how do you look at the idea of space making. And I think all these years, in the last 12 years, what we've been focusing on the idea of space making more than the idea of construction, because I think somewhere I was much more aware about the idea of construction as a kid to a grown-up before even getting into architecture. So that I have been fortunate that I got this sort of a background.
So informal education has been more consciously done than the formal practice, which has just got, just fell into place, if I'm right.
Correct.
So did you start it as a partnership firm or an associate firm with your wife, now architect Monali Patel, or is the proprietorship concerned?
So basically, me and Monali know each other right from our college days. I have known her from 2005. I got into architecture in 2004. Monali joined in 2005 as she's a year junior to me. So we've almost grown together, dating each other. And when I started the firm in 2011, of course, I started it initially because Monali was
started everything early in life.
Yes, so I think one part of the life was sorted, and that's why I could focus on my architecture pretty well, because the other side was very well sorted. So I started in 2011 myself. Of course, Monali was part of it, but in the formal structure of the firm, she was not part of the firm when we started it formally in 2011, because she was still working with some other office where she was practicing landscape architecture with one of the local architects in Nashik. And that is the reason it started as a proprietary firm, and then Monali came in as an associate, and now everything is done together. But as you asked, I think it started as a proprietary firm.
Okay. So, but then it works as a associate firm.
Absolutely.
Because with a lot of associates coming in and joining you in a later.
Correct. So not just Monali. I think as we started very early, when I started the firm, I was 24 years old. And the other person working with me, a fresh graduate, was just 22-year-old or 23-year-old. So I think most of our initial career, we had people with similar age group, where we could not have a hierarchy. So we had no other option but to basically make it a more collaborative effort, as if these are friends working in a studio. And I think that is the reason that all of us in the studio are almost having that sense of ownership, and everyone is like an associate and is working on projects with a lot more ownership, I think.
Because I should say that your firm has evolved from, you did have a platter from the family background, that you had the construction there, you had the architect over there,
Correct.
playing the, your uncle playing the role, so you could have got a little informally mentored.
Correct.
And you have learned from them, and then
Correct.
you evolved into a firm, and it
Correct.
actually it is an 18-year-old firm, I should say, because 8 years you were already into it. So this is how it is, and it's pretty good. So because you know, an architectural firm has got two sides of the coin: the design part of it the architect plays, and then also the PMC role, project
Correct.
management, where
Correct.
we get involved in the construction.
Correct.
So because that is very important, because we are not artists just to see it just on the you know, frame, but it has to be brought onto the ground. So then we'll have a lot of collaborations with SMEs. How has it been with your SMEs? How do you interact with them, your subject matter experts, and how do you involve them into your projects?
So I think, again, coming back as we started really young, so project management, more than coming as a choice, it came as a compulsion.
Yes.
And I was very well wanting to get engrossed in this process, because I hardly knew that how my project which I have designed on paper is going to turn out on the site.
So you were interested to know that?
I was absolutely interested to know that, and that's why in the initial years, half of my time I used to be on the site, knowing that how my building is turning out in reality. And I think that process really trained me at a faster pace to know that when you draw something on paper, how does it exactly transform in form of a third-dimensional space which is occupied by people, and what kind of feelings do they have sitting in that space or occupying that space. So I think this transition really worked, because we were doing smaller projects at a slower pace, so I could really afford to engage into the construction process, talking to the masons, understand the layers of the brick and how they are laid. Instead of talking about a dimension, we always talked about layers, because I was able to interact with these people and understand that if you ask for a 450 mm seating, I don't think it will be 450 exactly, because when he's laying brick by brick, it might be 450 or 460 or 470, depending on the brick which is baked individually.
Correct.
So there's always this difference. So what is important to you? Is the dimension important, or is the module important? And we realize that a module is more important than the dimension. So lessons like these have stayed with me for lifetime.
Say that architect should not be in a hurry. You need to go through the process. And that probably ensures something like the designer, then the process, that comes into a product, and that's sustainable practice. Is it, if I'm right?
I think as architects, it is very important that we realize that we are in a slower profession. Something which you have designed is going to take years and months to be done and executed. It's very different from fashion design, where you have sketched a shirt in the morning, by afternoon a tailor has already stitched for you, and by evening you wear it and you reject it and you start a new shirt the next morning. So we need to understand that how within the larger design fraternity also, how architectural design is different than rest of the design professions. And I think that getting comfortable to this pace and this idea of slowness is very important if you want to craft beautiful buildings.
And finally, the experience, what the client is really going to experience, what it was meant to be.
Correct.
We're actually channelizing the vision of and a dream of a client. And then we are saying that, okay, the experience you're going to draw from it. So we design, we build it, and then we allow him to experience it for a year and a half. Then he comes out with the feedback.
Correct.
Isn't that we look forward to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the best compliment I have got from a client till now is not that he's aesthetically appreciating the building or he likes this or that as a visual, but he said that whenever he comes in the afternoon to have lunch at home, few times he doesn't go back to work, because after coming from a hot sunny day, entering the house makes him feel so calm and quiet and cool that he doesn't feel like going back to work. So I think that is what a house is meant for, where you can cut off from the chaos of this urban setup and just relax your body and soul in this place.
Yeah. So one side you're talking the experience and the design aspects of it. To get that through in the project, actually giving that experience, it is a whole lot of process in the construction thing, you know, and then how you related that as a business. End of the day, you know, it is sustainable practice not only in terms of design, the designer also should be satisfied enough that he's actually doing something to the society with the dignity in
Correct.
labor what he's
Correct.
and the services providing. So how do you actually talk about that?
So I think even if you look at it from a business point of view,
Yeah.
if the product which is promised by you and the client together to create something which he's always aspired for, or forget about aspiration, even what they need, even if you look at it from a doctor's point of view, that a client has come with a brief and then you diagnose and understand that what do they need. If it doesn't work the way you've promised, it is a terrible business proposal anyways.
Yeah.
Because if you have promised something and not delivered, the client is going to know the way. The moment he starts staying there for a year, he will know whatever you've promised has not worked, and then that will not work for business. If you have really fulfilled your commitment, it is going to multiply in terms of his feedback going to rest of the clients, and that multiplies into the business. So I think
So that is word of mouth.
absolutely,
And that's how we have generated business
absolutely,
and the projects and as a contract, and we move on to smaller scale to bigger scale
correct,
and the
correct,
stuff
correct,
like that. So we can
correct.
speak a language someday.
I
Yes.
think it is very important to realize that architecture, whatever said and done, whatever drawing, rendering, XYZ said and done, ultimately it is about real space making
Yes.
with brick and mortar. And if you cannot create a space which people can experience and then talk about the result, it's of no use, I think. So the problem right now is also that a lot of people are so satisfied with just renders. Half of them don't want to get into building, and half of them are not even coming closer to going to the sites and experiencing whether it is turning out to be this or that. I think it's an important
That's
thing.
because somewhere, you know, every the business or even architecture for that matter, it is also a business where they earn their bread.
Correct.
So probably in a tier 2 city where your practice is in Nashik, somewhere you can slow down your pace, and in an urban setup like Mumbai, where the tier 1 cities are Pune and Bangalore and Hyderabad and Chennai, is it the same thing that we could actually look for? How slow can you be, and still you need to meet the deadlines and you need to deliver, and you'll have to sustain yourself in the city where you're born.
Correct, correct.
You can't just migrate to a town because
Correct,
you want to.
correct.
So how do you
correct.
talk about that?
So I think in that, I feel the skill of collaboration
Yeah.
plays a very, very important role.
Yeah.
I don't mind even if you're doing 100 projects at a time, and I'm sure that's a personal choice. But then how do you ensure that these 100 projects are visited by some or the other representative from your team to ensure that whatever you all have thought together with the client is coming out in the way it was thought? I'm not saying that the principal architect needs to be always there, but someone who's capable enough, and you as a team leader has appointed that person who you're sure that is going to ensure that the quality of the project is happening the way it was thought. I think
So you
it's
mean
just
to say that personal touch is required at any given time?
absolutely, absolutely.
That ensures the client also in being happy about what he got and what you delivered, and then keep giving projects after projects, and
Correct, correct.
probably that's how the sustainable practices go.
Absolutely.
The client stays for 9-10 projects.
Correct.
For all you know, he'll never leave you at all ever.
Correct,
if
correct,
I'm right.
correct.
So then you've called your firm as A for Architecture. Somewhere I see A for Ajay Sonar as well. Or is it A for Ajay Sonar's architecture?
So for me, Ajay Sonar is nowhere in picture. The whole idea for calling it A for Architecture, because we were very much interested in this idea of collaboration, and we never wanted it to be named by me or Monali or anyone else, because the core should be always architecture. And every morning when we get up, we should think what we are doing in this profession called architecture. Are we really doing architecture, or are we doing something else under the name of architecture? And that's why A for Architecture, A for Architecture for me is more of a slogan than a name. So I think this slogan creates a certain sense of momentum within the practice where
And a responsibility as well.
yes, so every day when I'm sitting in the office with my team, we want to make them realize that we are here to do architecture, because I think whatever is happening around is not exactly architecture, and as architects we need to keep questioning that are we really doing architecture through our practice, or are we practicing something else?
But isn't it holistic? And a young entrepreneur or an architect should realize that is a holistic approach towards practice.
Absolutely.
Because there is the design element and then the business entrepreneurship. But because he needs to manage people.
Correct.
Design also is for the client, where he needs to manage that. And he also has to manage lot many startups, still the labor.
Correct.
So that everybody is cohesively working, collaborating with each
Correct.
other and bringing the the whole product out. So in this perspective, I'm so happy to have spoken to you. You know, it's been a journey for you, but then it's been a very, I should say, a passionate journey, but you've made it to a point here at quite a young age, and that is remarkable. And a vision which has become your mission now, as you said that A for architecture is your mission, it's a slogan, and bringing it to reality is a journey by itself. Thank you, Mr. Ajay, for this wonderful session which we had.
Thanks a lot.
It's been a short talk, however, but I'm going to prolong this and take it on very soon with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.